We are live, Tracy Prigmore live.
Hey Beth, how are you?
I'm awesome. So,
Good.
welcome to Women Investor Wednesday. It's
Wow.
Wednesday, and you're a woman investor, and that's why you're here.
I was like, is it Wednesday? Because I've been I've been working so much, I don't know the days sometimes. But yes, it is Wednesday. I'm happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy you're here. So, for anyone that doesn't know Tracy, and I know a lot of people know you because actually, well, first of all, you spoke on my first virtual
Hmm.
uh, commercial real estate women's investment summit. And then
Hmm.
last year you were in person down here in Fort Lauderdale. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
And so a lot of the women know you and know your story, but there's and people were DMing me today. Oh, I can't wait to hear what's up with Tracy, what she's up to, and what's new with Tracy. And then there's a couple other women that were asking, so what asset class is she in? I'm like, well, you didn't read the bio, obviously. She's hotels.
Uh-huh.
So I know we're going to have a lot of women that know you and don't know you. So for the ones that don't know you, I'm just going to do a little. I mean, I want you to expound on this, but
Okay.
if for those of, you know, I'm trying to help women, but Tracy, honey, you're taking it to the whole new level. And she's going to explain what she's doing with She Has a Deal and hotel ownership with women and minority women and young women and older women. And
Okay.
I aspire to be you. And so let's start there, how this all came about and how you started buying hotels. Like I just buy little strip centers, but hotels. So
Yeah.
share a little bit of your bio for our audience.
Yeah, sure. So, as you know, I started out investing in residential properties. So, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad a long time ago, and I was just blown away. Like, oh my goodness, I need to do this. I need to, create more retirement income for myself. And here's a great way to do it. It sounded really interesting. My father had done a little brokering. My uncle was big into real estate. So I was like, oh, let me read this, let me try to get into this so I can enhance my retirement income. And so I started buying I started with one condo, and then I just kept doing what he said, right? You buy one, you refinance, you pull the cash out, buy another one. So I by no means made a lot of money. So I worked a nonprofit. I had what they considered a leadership executive job, but when I look at the money, I'm like, this is not really an executive job. But I took my first bonus from that job, and I bought this condo, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. It took me a while to jump in because I kept thinking, well, what happens if the people don't pay, and then I have to go through the whole eviction thing? And do you know what happened? The first condo I bought, I had to do an eviction. But the
Oh,
great
stop
thing
for a
was,
second. So how old were you when you made that and you bought a condo not to live in, just I'm sharing for the audience, you
yeah,
bought it to rent out.
to rent out. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. They're saying, hey, buy homes or, condos, whatever. Do all the numbers though. And then you should make net cash flow. And
How
then,
old were you?
so, oh, are you going there? I don't
What?
remember.
Okay.
I was in my 30s. I was
Okay,
in my
that's
30s.
okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Were you in your 20s,
20s.
30s,
No,
40s?
no, I
Okay.
didn't. I was mad that I didn't know about this in my 20s. Okay. So I just started investing in my 30s.
Okay.
So yeah, I was probably 30. It's probably 30.
Okay.
So, oh, and I'm not,
I
I was,
won't, don't worry. I just want to know when you started. I won't ask you
right.
anymore.
Well, okay. So I think I just started, it was about 30 years old. And so I took this bonus, put that as a down payment. I received a loan from Bank of America. Yay, Bank of America, because some people turned me down initially because they're
How
like,
many
well,
people?
you
How
haven't
many
done.
people turned you down?
I think two banks said you don't have any experience
And how much
investing.
money did you have to put down about?
Okay, so 10% back then. So
Yeah.
$13,000. The condo was $130,000. So I don't even remember. It's on my blog, but I made like a goo gob of percent return on that. So what I
A
did
goo
was
gob. A goo gob?
a goo gob. Like it was, I mean, when you think about a $13,000 investment and I walked away with a couple 100,000, you know what I mean? Like that's
I'm
a
just
lot.
teasing you. I'm putting in the chat goo gob just in
Goo
case
gob.
anyone
Yeah,
wants.
I'm sorry. I'm not being okay, everyone. I'm not like sophisticated or
I
proper.
love you. I
I
love
can
your
get
job.
proper though. I can get proper. I have worked in corporate. I can get proper. Okay.
Okay.
So, it all started there with buying one condo. So I had that vision, as Rich Dad Poor Dad said, hey, keep buying, get as many as you can, make sure they cash flow, right? Because if they cash flow, you can buy as many as an infinite number. If they don't, you're going to be limited by the cash you have. That part I got really well. I'm really good with numbers, and I knew revenue minus expenses, etc. So I treated my investments like a commercial. I took some commercial classes, treated it like a commercial deal. Like I had the whole financial analysis, the IRR, the cash on cash, all of that. I was treating them like that. So I kept buying them. And I always in the back of my head, it's like, I want to invest in commercial real estate. But oh my God, only rich people can do that. Only, maybe once I get 100 single families, I can trade in and get, and I wasn't thinking hotel, but I can trade in and get a commercial building. But only rich people do this. Like, I'm not rich. I'm lucky I had $13,000 to put down on this deal. And luckily they only wanted 10%. Because before, when I first thought about it, you had to put a lot more down and interest rates were a lot higher. So long story short, I took this commercial real estate investing class with CCIM. Everybody should be familiar with CCIM. Yep. And oh my goodness, it blew me away. I loved it. Like back then, you couldn't do it online. You had to go for a whole week. You had to
somewhere somewhere
Denver.
far.
Yes, I went to Denver. I think I went to
Arkansas.
Chicago.
Yeah, they made you go away
for a whole week.
And they gave you homework every night.
Every night. You had a group you had to work with. It was serious, right? But I loved it. I took the first one, market analysis, and I was like, oh, this is my jam. Like, this is where I need to be. And I was getting 100% on my exams, and they're like, whoa, who are you? Like, you're not even in real estate. And
just so you know, I only took valuation. I was the president of a company in Miami. Everyone knew I was doing it. I was had to go away. And I swear, Tracy, I was scared to death. I didn't think I passed, and everyone knew I was taking it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to pass this class. But I passed. Thank God. And then I didn't take any more. So,
I took every single one of them. So I have a full-time job, and I'm literally like taking time off to go. And my job was, remote, and I traveled. I hope my boss, he wouldn't be listening on this, but I was, I was working full time, and I would kind of maneuver so I could go and take these classes. You'd be in class all day long, homework at night. I'm doing work in between, but I took the whole entire series because I was like, this is really good stuff. And it was in that class that my instructor, one of the classes, he's talked about syndication. And I'm like, send a what? And he's like, syndication. That's how everybody buys commercial real estate. I'm like, stop right now. What are you talking about? So explain to me how rich people don't buy commercial real estate by themselves, right? Like they syndicate, people come together and pitch in, and one person leads the deal. It's a sponsor. He starts explaining all this, and he's like, and there's a guy who wrote a book about it, and he's the guru of syndication. I'm like, what's his name? So back then, you couldn't just go online and download a book. Like I went online, ordered the book, and could not wait for it to come. It took 3 weeks to come. And I read the whole book. And then there's a session in Las Vegas that this guy is giving.
You're talking about Gary Rappaport?
No, this was, oh gosh, what is his name? I can't think of his name, but he was, it's a whole new business. It was syndication. It's a whole new business.
Okay.
And his company has morphed into, he's no longer in that company, but he's sold it and it's morphed. I still work with them actually, but I flew to Las Vegas by myself, took his class, got the book, everything. And I was like, this is my way into commercial real estate. I'm going to syndicate because it's going to take me decades to have enough money to buy my own property. So then for me, it was the next challenge was which asset class. So multi seemed, a no-brainer with me having at that point, I had a lot more residential properties. So I'm like, okay, I'll look at that. And then the retail sounded interesting. So started looking into all of those. And at the time he told us hotels were a special asset class, but I still never thought about hotels because I traveled extensively for work, and I worked for a national healthcare system. So I was all over the country and I practically lived in hotels, and I loved a good hotel. But I'm thinking hotels are big box and they're all owned by Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt. Those were the
Okay.
people I
So
stayed with.
when you said hotels are a special asset class, I don't know what you mean by that. Is there a
Yeah.
meaning behind that?
Yeah, so now they're not so much, but back then they were considered a special asset class. So the four asset classes, retail, multi,
Industrial.
industrial, whatever. But then hotels were seen, like in churches, were seen as special asset class. I've since learned that that's morphed as more institutional investors have gotten into hotels.
Okay.
Okay, so when he said that, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And then I read this article in Lodging about Bill Marriott, and he's talking about how their model is to franchise and they're selling all their assets. They've set up Host, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but I'm still not thinking,
Why
hotel.
were you reading Lodging?
So I think I was somewhere and I just saw it, and
Okay.
I thought, oh wow, interesting, Bill Marriott. I know
Okay.
that name. I know
Okay.
Marriott, not knowing a whole bunch about the history, and I still put it away and didn't think about it.
Okay.
Fast forward, I come to your area. I'm buying a condo and I need a place to stay. And I'm like, okay, I need an inexpensive hotel because it's my money. I'm used to staying on the company dollar, and it needs to be close to the condo. And there's this Hampton Inn. Never heard of Hampton Inn, and it says $99. I'm like, oh, that's a good deal. Aventura, right across from Gulfstream. It's Hallandale, really, right across from Gulfstream. I check in there, and the lady's telling me free breakfast, free Wi-Fi, and I'm like, what? So I'm used to staying in big box where you pay for everything. At the time, Wi-Fi was not free. And I'm like, really? Free? And she's like, yeah. And it was a relatively new hotel built by a Related group. I think it was Related who built it. And I go in and I'm like, gosh, this is really nice. This is like full service, just smaller. And so I literally went to bed talking to a friend going, this is a good deal. I'm staying at this hotel called the Hampton something. And then I wake up the next morning with an epiphany. I should buy a hotel like this, right? Because I'm like, oh my God. So the Bill Marriott article coupled with me looking for an asset class with this class I took where my instructor Byron talks about syndication, it all came together because I was looking at multi-projects. I was looking at all these different projects. I was like, oh my gosh, I should buy a hotel. So I start Googling. At the time, I don't think I was Googling. I think it was something else. But Google came fast after that. But so I started looking, and then this conference pops up about hotel ownership. And I'm like, wait a minute, who is what? I didn't know about cookies at the time. And so I get this email from Andy Ingram about this neighborhood thing in South Florida. And I'm like, I'm so going, I'm talking so much, I'm like coughing. So I get a ticket, I buy a register. I don't know anything. I figured occupancy, I know that because I worked in hospitals. I ran hospitals. ADR seemed, interesting. I know that. But RevPAR, I have no idea. I know nothing. And I go there. Excuse me.
It's okay.
And I'm super green. And I'm meeting all these people. I'm not even knowing anything. But I'm like, I'm buying a hotel. So that's pretty much how it happened.
Okay. So tell them what happened. Tell the next step. The next step, you identify. How did you find the first hotel to buy? Was it listed?
Yes. So I went to this conference. I learned a little bit, not enough. Panel discussions don't really teach you what to do in the next steps or anything like that. But I had an opportunity. There's a guy there from Hilton who was doing this thing with women in New Orleans. And, they said, oh, but you can only get invited if you're ready and you have money and all this. I literally begged this guy to let me come. I'm like, I don't know anything, blah, 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 but I really want to come. I was sending him emails. I was calling him, and I got an invitation to go. So when I went to that, I learned more, but really it was more so about Hilton's brands. But it was super helpful because met some different people, and understood kind of like this brand thing. Although I stayed in a lot of brands, I didn't understand, how it all worked. And so after that, I'm like, okay, I'm going for it. And I just started looking online to find, and I did get embarrassed because I did call one broker. And to this day, I see him, and I'm like, hey, I need a broker representative, a buyer broker. He's like, we don't do that in commercial. I represent the seller, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I found this deal with a small broker in St. Louis, where I'm from. So, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I wasn't really ready. I thought I was ready. And literally I'm self-teaching myself, and I'm trying to get some people that I met at the conference to, help me. No one's calling me back or whatever. I mean, it wasn't that simple, but, yeah, I put this hotel under contract. I can't even believe they let me put it under contract.
They did not, they didn't ask you for evidence of funds, or had you started raising money? And what was the purchase price? What was the purchase?
The purchase price was 4.7 million.
Then they didn't ask you for evidence of funds.
They didn't. I was very lucky. It was a guy, a small owner. It was a small broker, right? So it wasn't like a big Marcus and Millichap or anything. And I don't know what it was, but they liked me. And the seller, he actually had been in the Gulf for a long time, and he was absentee. He had just gotten back, and he decided he was just going to sell. He had like 3 or 4 hotels. He was going to sell them. And this broker was super nice to me. And yeah, I still to this day I don't know. But even the lender, so the existing lender was willing to let me assume the mortgage. And he liked me. He flew to DC to meet with me.
So did everyone like you because you were a Black woman, or what was the deal? Why do you think this was going on?
I think because I was very detailed and organized.
Okay.
Right. So I come from.
It had nothing to do with your gender or your race.
I don't think so. I mean, these are white guys. I don't know. Okay. I was from St. Louis, but I didn't live there. But I also, I was organized. I mean, I come from corporate, and, but let me just tell you, I did not have the proper financial analysis models.
Your preparation.
Faked
them out, though. It faked them out. Your organization made you present as if you had more knowledge.
Right. So I had done the homework, right? Like, as much as I know, I didn't know then, right? Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
I was I was unconsciously incompetent.
Right. Okay? So you put it under contract. What happened?
Under contract. The great thing was that the lender was willing to let me assume it. I sent him my financials. That's some pretty good money. I had a lot of properties, right? And he flew here. He met me. He said, but the one thing you have to do is you have to get an SBA loan. So, with SBA, you have to have a lender, but your SBA has to approve you because it guarantees or provides a guarantee to the lender. At least they're in second position. They're in first position. So the lender's in first.
And the SBA, you can do like 90% financing?
It was for hotels, 85%.
So you had to raise, did you have the down payment yourself?
No.
Okay.
So I had a syndication. Remember syndication?
I know. I was wondering when that came.
I knew exactly what to do. I had the book, the Bible, the whatever. I had an offering. I hired a lawyer that I met through Maui Mastermind. So I went to Maui Mastermind, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad. Diane Kennedy was his accountant or CPA that helped him to get rich. And then she started her own education platform with, I'm really dating myself. So another guy, David, and they partnered, and I paid $30,000 to go to Maui Mastermind, to be in the room with all these real estate gurus. And so I did learn a lot from, like the attorneys who came there and other sponsors, and none of them did hotels, but I learned, that blueprint of syndication and who to talk to. So I hired the lawyer that was at the conference at Maui Mastermind. So I had all the documents. I had the offering documents, operating agreement.
How much did you raise?
So I didn't raise anything because I got everything out, but the SBA said no.
Right. Well, but how long did that take? that took a while for you to
Right. So
yeah.
I did everything. Like I was, I was out raising money, but I hadn't taken anybody's money yet. But I was, having my phone calls and calling on my friends, and I was using my own money too. I didn't need that much. It's like $1 million. When I think about it, it's like $1 million. It wasn't like a lot of money.
Right.
And I don't even, no, it wasn't even $1 million.
No,
it was like 650. It was like 650.
Yeah, that's why I asked you when I looked at the 4.7 and I'm thinking 15%. Did you use your own money or did you start doing the syndication then? So
I was doing the syndication. So I was going to put a couple hundred myself, and I, like I was talking to friends or whatever. But the SBA took a long time.
How long?
So I want to say it was at least 60 days, 45, 60 days, because I had to get an extension, and I had spent money on appraisals and property inspections and environmental surveys, everything.
Pursuit costs.
Lots of pursuit at risk costs.
How much was how much, do you remember how much pursuit costs you lost on that?
Say that I spent a little over 30,000.
Yeah, that's about right. Okay.
And
so they turned you down and
turned me down, and I was not smart enough to understand that when they tell you they're going to do it, that doesn't mean they're going to do it. Right. Like the guy, my loan officer kept saying, oh, you're good. You look good. You have this, that, and all these things was hyping me up. I'm thinking it's just a formality. There's a committee. It was 504. There's a committee, and we just have to go to committee.
So that deal falls apart, and then you say, forget it. I'm not going to do hotels now. Or
no, I went back to my day job. And it was at that time, it was 08, right? I was supposed to close at the end of 07 into 08. I think it was January when I got the news. Luckily I had like 3 days to claim my deposit back. So that's my goal, is you never lose your deposit. You might lose your at-risk cap, but you don't lose your deposit. So I was able to get my deposit back. They had somebody behind me. So, I just moved on, right? Because I didn't know who else to call. I'm thinking this was a sure bet. I had a lender, I had an SBA. I even called the SBA. I'm like, I'm trying to appeal it. They're like, we don't do that. Like, they're like, no, really, the lender said no. I'm like, no, the SBA said no. And they couldn't fathom that. But they're like, it's their sole decision. So move on, lady, basically, is what they were saying to me. I wrote letters, everything.
So now what happened?
So I went back to my day job. I was still doing my day job, but I had a high pressure. I was a SVP for strategy, chief strategy officer at a hospital system. So it was 08, and everything was, all the news was like, everything is falling apart. There's no money. Everyone's losing money. So I didn't even try, right? I didn't even try. And my job was a lot of pressure. I was working 18-hour days. So I didn't even try. I was buying physician practices for my job and, doing all of that stuff for my responsibility. So I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to do it. Thankfully, I bought some residential at the time. I should have been buying more. But at the time, I said, well, I'll keep buying my residential. I'll get back to it. And I didn't come back to it for like 6 years.
Okay. So you come back in 2014. How many residentials do you have by then?
Probably like 21, 22, something like that. I don't even know. I mean,
so 2014, and what's the catalyst that you said, now I'm going to go do that hotel thing?
Yeah. So I had left my job, and, because I was traveling, I left my job. I was trying to have a baby. I think I actually had the baby then. I'm trying to remember. But so 2014, my son was born in 2012. Yeah. So I had the baby, right? He was born in 2012. Wait, I'm like, I don't even remember what is this? Yeah, he's 2012. Okay. That's a shame. I had to do the math. So yes, I had my son. I had gotten married, and I'm back here feeling like a loser. So I worked on Obamacare, and that was draining. I tried to find some healthcare jobs here, and I was in the finals, and essentially they were like, no, we chose the other person. And I'm like, okay, is God trying to tell me something? Like, these doors are shut in 2 very high power jobs, large health systems locally. And I'm not the chosen one. I'm the finalist, but I'm not the chosen one. I have this baby, probably a little postpartum, did Obamacare, was drained from that because I didn't take a maternity leave. So I'm, like, okay, I'm taking this time to get myself together. And I felt like a loser. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. No one will hire me. And I'm like, I'm super qualified. They're telling me I make too much money. And I'm like, it's okay. They're like, no, we don't, all these jobs I'm trying to get, I'm not getting them. And so I'm like, you know what? Do I really want to be in the healthcare anyway? Like, is that really what I want to be doing? And at the time, I'm doing a little bit of consulting and things like that. And then I was like, look, I've been talking about this. I'm jumping back in, and I got a call about a limited partnership opportunity. And I thought, okay, I can invest in that and I can learn from this
In
person.
In a
In a
hotel.
hotel, a local
Oh,
hotel. I get a call just randomly about it. And yeah, so I'm like, oh, I know this market because I own a lot of residential in the market. And I think, oh, this is a great market.
how'd you get the call? Where'd the call come from?
It came from Andy Ingram, who was NABHOOD, the NABHOOD guy.
Okay.
And he knew I was in the area, so he was matching me up with this person. I'm thinking, oh, this will be a great opportunity.
So how much did you put in?
So I put in 750,000, but I did syndicate a small group. Most of it was mine, but I did put in a small group, and really so okay. Where's my chance to test my syndication and learn from this person, be mentored, et cetera, et cetera. But I always knew I was going to do my own deal. So at the time, I'm still looking for my own deal after we closed on that. And I'm a limited partner. A limited partner, I mean, you're just a passive investor and while I thought I was going to be mentored and everything, I mean, he really wasn't the mentoring type. And, but, I probably learned something, being as a part of the deal, getting the financials, looking at them and everything. But I went and pursued, it's like, okay, I got to put up or shut up. My mother used to say that all the time, put up or shut up, like stop talking about you're going to do hotel ownership if you're not really doing it. And I will be honest that I was gun shy after, that door shut when I tried to do it before. And probably use the excuse of the Great Recession and work because I didn't even try, right? Like I didn't even try. I did not try until 2014. And so I started looking at deals and finally, found one that, I put offers in, but finally got one where I won the bid and it was a Hampton Inn. Ironically, it was a Hampton Inn. And it wasn't too far from about an hour, 45 minutes, hour from where I lived at the time. And so, yeah, I put it under contract. I needed $3.6 million. And I'm going to be honest, I did not have $3.6 million. I knew I had the strategy, which was syndication. And I knew I had some friends and family, but I literally did not. My mindset was, you have to try. And if I fail, I just fail, I move on. But to not try, you have to try.
And it was, you needed the 3.6 was the down payment or that was the total price?
That was a down payment. That was just a down payment. Yeah. Okay. So, I got lucky again. There was a female broker. She she took an interest in me. I met her from the limited partnership. She had sold that hotel to the sponsor. And so she was helping me look for stuff. And so she called me on the deal. And it made sense to me. It needed a complete renovation, but it was like 7.75 million. But needed a total renovation, and it was close to my home, and it was a Hampton, and I felt like it was my destiny since I woke up in a Hampton and wanted to, decided to buy. And so I went through that whole process and got a loan. I mean, it was like, because I was always told like you can't get a loan. You can't qualify for a loan unless your net worth is equivalent to the loan amount. And you have liquidity of 10%. So they say. So that was they say. They say. And so that was one of the things that kept me from trying too, right?
You know the gender of who the they sayers are?
I don't know who they are. Male?
Yes.
Okay. Well, they say, and they said it, and they told me directly, and they're like, oh, you're articulate and everything, but you don't have enough experience. I mean, I got all kinds of denials, but I worked with a broker and he actually found me a loan.
A mortgage broker.
Yeah. He found me a loan, which I was ecstatic. And it was Morgan Stanley. I'm like, and I'm literally talking to the Morgan Stanley, like, have you looked at my balance sheet? I mean, I'm serious. Like, are you sure? Like my back, you saw it, right? Like, I'm syndicate, all these things.
But it's the deal. It's not.
It's the deal. It is the deal.
Does the deal support the loan.
Right. And he said it, no, it's the deal. He said that, but it needed a PIP. And I knew that. And I told them,
Tell them what that is.
okay, so a PIP is a product improvement plan. And what hotels have to do is you have to do a PIP like every 7 years. It's to keep it modern and up to date. And so it needed a full PIP. I knew that going in. I'd underwritten all that. By then, I've taken other classes. I've gotten more savvy than I was the first deal, right? And I've been going to other conferences. So I've been making many more connections and understanding how the game works. And so Morgan Stanley backs out 3 weeks before closing. So I'm out raising money. I'm getting money's coming in. It's not easy.
And your deposit's hard now or no?
No, not yet. Okay. So the only thing that saved me was that, and normally it would have been hard. In the contract, it would have been hard. But what happened is the seller, I wrote in the contract. So I learned from all of my little reading and lessons that in the agreement, I put, if the PIP is more than X dollars, then you have to lower the price, right? Or you'll agree to renegotiate the price. That was upfront. They agreed to it. So they said the PIP would be less. And I knew it wasn't. Like I've done enough houses. I don't know hotels, but I've done enough houses to know this is not enough money. But I went with it. I'm like, okay. So we went out and we had the pricing done. So they wanted to get their own pricing done. When I went with mine, they're like, well, let us do it. So
they needed an extension.
They gave me extension. So my money never went hard. So that was luck. That was stupid luck, right? So I'm like, I'm in my head and with the lender, I'm like, it's the PIP is 2.8. I don't care what they say, it's 2.8. And so I'm continuing to move with the 2.8. And so Morgan Stanley knew it was 2.8, but they got uncomfortable at some point. I'm not sure what happened, but they came out and did the inspection, whatever. And then they said, you got to put down more money. And I'm like, I don't even have 3.6 yet to myself. I didn't tell them that. I'm not comfortable putting down another 10%. Like they wanted another 10% in reserve. So that would have been another 700,000, something. It was a lot. And so I'm like, okay, this is crazy. But anyway, one day I'm driving and they call me and the loan officer saying, do you have a few minutes? And I'm like, oh Lord, this is not. And he's like, they've decided to pass. I'm like, what? It's 3 weeks. Like, what do you mean it passed? So they said, we can't do it. I said, not even with the 10%. They're like, we're just moving on. Like we can't do it. And I'm just like, our lawyers are talking every day. Like our lawyers, I'm paying their lawyers, I'm paying my lawyers to get to closing. And then they're like, we're not going to do it.
So then what happened?
So I drive up. I was out. I was in the car. So I drive up and I just bawl out crying. But I knew instinctively I was going to close on this hotel. I didn't know how. But at this point now I know more people. So I literally sat in the car and cried for about 15 minutes, wiped off my tears. I go in the house. I tell my husband, I need you to watch Noah tonight. I need to, Morgan Stanley, I broke out and crying again. Morgan Stanley said they're not. He's like, what? What's going on? I was like, just take. And I went up to my room. It was the World Series was going on. I remember this. And I called this lawyer that I had used on the LP deal. And I told him the story. And he's like, okay, and he starts calling people. We're on three-way and he's calling lenders. He called one lender in Chicago who's watching the World Series. It was Chicago, the Cubs were in the World Series. And so I ended up getting 2 term sheets from 2 lenders. And I chose one, which I had already known these lenders because I met them at the conference. I didn't know them, but I knew them. And now they're actually partners with She Has a Deal. But they were like, we think we can get it done. We probably need an extra week or 2. And they said, send us all your stuff, get your appraisal signed over, everything. I signed everything. I had to pay money with the appraiser and everybody to get them signed over to them as a new lender. It was Stonehill Capital. And they're like, we're sending somebody out. And then, I literally was like, should I get a proxy? Because I wasn't sure, like, are they gonna look at me? We go through this, women, people of color, like, are they really going to do this loan after me being turned down by Morgan Stanley? I literally thought about sending a proxy. And because they like, we're flying in, we'll be there like 2 days.
Tracy, you've never told me that before.
I never told you that. I thought about it, but I did not use a proxy because I said to myself, I
If
said,
they don't want me for me, fuck them.
exactly,
Excuse my
exactly,
French.
exactly. That's exactly what I said. I prayed on it and I said, listen, if if it's not meant to be, and if they can't accept me and know the value that I bring to this transaction, that the work that I put into this and how hard I worked, I don't want to do business with them. Right. And I've heard other people do this and be successful, be turned down and be successful. But I was like, I'm just not. And they came and they did it in 2 weeks. They closed the deal in 2 weeks. So I'm forever grateful to them. And I've told them, I said, you don't know what you did for me personally. And then you don't know what you've done for the industry. Because as a result of me having the slip ups and feeling like I had no real support or mentorship, and that it was really hard for women, and the information out there was just not in the way I needed it to be successful, I started She Has a Deal. She Has a Deal was all about making sure other women didn't have to go through what I went through, and that they could be exposed and inspired, and they could be educated in a way, a mentorship way. Our platform is all about educating them, accelerating their knowledge.
Okay. So we're obviously going to have another session with you. We're going to keep talking, but there's so many questions. But we have to get to some very important things before we end at 6:50. These are the things we have to cover. We have to cover She Has a Deal, and we have to cover the new deal.
Okay, sure.
So you've got 6 minutes to talk about She Has a Deal, and then I want to talk about the deal because there's women on here that will become our partners. I am your partner,
right?
And I want other women to have the ability. So
okay, so I'm sorry I talked too much, but okay.
No, I love it, and they're loving it. So they're saying you need to write a book. They want to know the name of the syndication book.
It's a whole new business, but it's probably outdated by now. But I don't know. I mean, there's Reg D now. The Reg D wasn't.
So talk about. So She Has a Deal. You're going to tell them I have been a judge. I have been to the event twice,
and you're coming a third time.
It is amazing. Amazing. So
so She Has a Deal was all about my journey, right? Like I didn't want other women to have to go through what I went through. I heard that the brands wanted more women and people of color, owning and developing their hotels. And I went to them. I'm like, I know what the problem is. I know why you don't have more. I know how to solve this. And so I gave them a blueprint of this is what you need to do. And they were excited, but they didn't do anything. And then I figured out one day that I need to do this. God is calling me to do this. I'm a servant leader. I've done something similar in healthcare. I need to do this because it keeps me up at night thinking about the fact that what could be and how so many more women could be owning and developing hotels if they only had the tools and the mentorship and the money, the capital. So I started She Has a Deal, and essentially it's a real estate investment platform that creates, I say, new pathways to hotel ownership and development for women. And we're not just going to stop at hotels, but right now that's where we're focused because that's where I was focused. And then I knew that the brands would support, and they've helped me to build this platform. So Marriott and Hilton are founding sponsors. Hyatt came on later. They're a founding sponsor. And there's many others in the industry are helping and uplifting us, women to be able to do this.
The Hampton, are they not sponsors?
No, Hampton is Hilton.
Okay, good. I was going to say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Hilton was the first one in. I went to Bill, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And he was like, we're in. 5 minutes into the pitch, he was in. Marriott,
tell them what so it was college students, right? And now it's women, older women.
Yeah. So my idea was to always do older women. Like I was looking at myself as the avatar, right? What did I need? How could I be helped? But I wanted to start with early career to test my concept. So I knew that they would be kind. The older women would not. And I thought, if we could also expose and inspire these young women, because they're young and they haven't experienced what the older women have, which is you can't do it. No. They don't know that yet. So if we could teach them early that they can become owners, they would believe it. And we give them the tools, and they could start the trajectory of their career with ownership in their minds. That's why I
So
started.
how many have you done it 4 years now?
This is the 23 will be the 4th year. So we did it in 2020. So I started this in 2020, which got delayed, but this will be our 4th year.
And tell them this how the structure is.
Yeah. So what we do is we provide education. There's a self-study component and there's a live component on Zoom where you're learning from industry luminaries. The self-study component is the 9-stage hotel investment roadmap. I built it for myself, but I knew other women could benefit from it. So I built it out on a platform, on our EdTech platform for self-study, but then we supplement that with the live education, which the women are right now. Some of them are probably watching, but then they're getting ready to go learn how to, close their deal with our attorney. Greenberg Trawig is our sponsor attorney group with Samantha. So they probably.
Right.
Yeah.
So she teaches them and then they go to a pitch, which is so exciting.
Yeah. So they go out. So they're learning everything. They go out and find real deals, put the deal together, market analysis, financial analysis, taking control of the deal, writing LOIs, doing PSAs, learning how to raise capital for the deals. They put everything together and then they come and pitch it before investors and industry leaders, and they can win equity in the deal. So that's Shad Pitch. So some people think we're just a pitch competition, but we're not. We're an education, we're a real estate investment platform. We happen to have a pitch competition. To me, that was important so we could solidify the learning. So if they were learning, they could apply it real time. And there's nothing like a competition, to make you, apply.
Yeah. So I must have gone in 21 and 22, right?
Correct.
And in 21, it was just the young women. And then last year it was the young woman and.
Right. So we have today's woman, which is the experienced woman. So she has the wherewithal to close a deal. The early career is really building a pipeline for future hotel ownership. And they're getting jobs by, they're finding jobs because it's a live job interview and they're meeting, we're connecting them. I mean, I don't know if they appreciate it, but we had 5 CEOs of the major brands.
Well, I'm going to get there because that's but so last year at the cocktail party, so that morning in the gym, I saw the young lady who won the year before in 21. And I was talking to her in the gym. And then that night she's walking around in the cocktail party helping. And I met a guy who wanted to hire a young rock star and I introduced them. I don't know if that ever happened, but I helped with that.
Well, she now is a development manager at Marriott.
Oh, excellent. So let me share with the group I have a picture of this I'm going to post because so Tracy at the pitch contest or the pitch, whatever last year is part of the lunch presentation. It's Tracy and how many? 8?
5. It was 5. 5 CEOs.
5 CEOs. Tell them who they were.
Okay, so we had Mark Hablamazian, CEO of Hyatt. We had Ellie Malouf, CEO of the Americas for IHG. We had Chris Nassetta, CEO of Hilton. We had Jeff Bellotti, the CEO of Wyndham. And then we had Pat Pacious, the CEO of Choice.
So there's Tracy on the stage with these 5 CEOs and they're all just giving her lip service. I am telling you, yes, we need to have more women. Yes. And Tracy was, I was in the audience going, woohoo. She's like, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, and then what are you going to commit to today? Like what? You would not let them. It was like at one point they were like looking at each other. I was cheering you on, woman. I loved it.
No, thank you. And I've had follow-ups with 4 of the 5. And so we can talk about the deal because the deal, I've been meeting with Mark from Hyatt. And we've been talking about Hyatt investing in our fund. And then we talked about like, how do we do this, practically do this? And so now we're working on a Hyatt deal to build a Hyatt in South Florida. And Hyatt is very supportive, of us. And the great thing is it's just not me. 3 She Has a Deal alum are part of my team. So we have Azari from 2020 and we have Viviana from 2020 and then Morgan who won 2022 are all a part of TLT Solutions and a part of our deal team to build this hotel.
So so do you want to share about Coral Springs?
Yeah, so we're building 144 key Hyatt Place in Coral Springs, Florida. It's going to have a rooftop bar and restaurant, which is going to be amazing, and a meeting room and all the regular. The rooftop is really an extra element. So Hyatt places don't tend to have, unless they're in the city kind of development, to have a rooftop bar. But we are looking for investors, and so we're raising, and we're going to be building that. We hope to break ground sometime toward the at the end of the second quarter. So yes, we're super
How
excited.
much are you raising?
We're raising $9 million.
And what's the minimum?
The minimum is 50,000.
Yep. And so, and when's the next call where you talk about the deal? Do you know?
It's the 21st of February.
Okay, great.
So we're really excited that, to be building this, and with our partner, like, it's not with the partner because it's a Hyatt, but Hyatt is our partner, and they're, supporting and helping us, to be successful in this. And this will be a model for many other women, right? To be building their hotels. Because I told them that you could get a lot of, like, if we follow my blueprint, and we'll be bringing a lot of women, into ownership, because I believe that the brilliance of women is not there yet, right? So when more women are owning and developing hotels, the hospitality industry is going to explode with innovative growth, because we're not on the ownership side. We're working in the business, but when we're controlling and designing and really creating and bringing those products to life, that's where you're going to see explosive growth. We need more diversity. It's very homogenous around, who's on the ownership and development side. So we want to change that. See, She Has a Deal is all about changing that. So we're working on that deal.
And you won last year. What was the award that you won? You were on the front page of the hotel magazine.
Yeah. So Lodging recognized me as Person of the Year for 2021, which was super exciting that they would recognize, the work that I'm doing and find it important, because there's usually like CEOs on the cover. So I think that was kind of maybe the first time that they chose somebody that was a little lower, out there, but they recognize the value of what we're doing and what I'm bringing to the industry. So coming in as an outsider, working in healthcare, and now no one was talking about women in ownership, really not that much, until now everybody is. There's so many different programs that are working on having more women into ownership and development. So that's exciting to see the evolution of what's going on.
Do you want, so Josie's asking me if you want emails from people that are interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we'll get the emails, and we'll send them out, the information for the info session. We also have a winery that we have under contract.
Oh, well, while you're, first of all, tell me your email so I don't have to look it up, so I can.
Okay, it's TPRIGMORE. So T Prigmore.
TPRIGMORE.
At T as in Tom, L as in Larry, T as in Tom, solutions with an S.net.
Okay, so tell about the winery.
Okay, so we also have a winery under contract, and this is a little bit different, but it has an N, and it's a winery and a vineyard. And so we're also raising, we haven't started the offering for that, but we have it under contract. It's in California, in Amador County, which is located between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe. So we've partnered with a winemaker, a woman winemaker, and we're buying an existing winery, but we're going to be transitioning to her brand. So it's really exciting to look at, it's still hospitality in a way, right? Getting into the spirits business is new for me, but she has all the experience. But we have this inn that it's a small inn, but we are, now they do corporate events. We'll continue to do corporate events and buyouts and different things for small groups, and do weddings and
how many rooms in the inn?
So it's 6 rooms in the inn, and they're beautiful. It's got like a Tuscan villa look, but it has 3 rooms.
When you close, I'm booking it for the weekend with my ladies.
Yes, you have to do that. I'm going to do that too, right? So book it for your ladies, and there'll be plenty of wine. We have a chef there who will cook for you.
Awesome.
And it'll just, a lot of people, and they did that for us when we just went to visit. They had the chef who prepared a 3-course meal or 4-course meal. And, so it's just a lovely environment where you and your girlfriends can, have some girlfriend time.
Okay. So, why don't we tell everyone how we met?
Yeah, we met on Clubhouse. I never go on there anymore, but we met on Clubhouse. But I'm so glad that I was on Clubhouse that night because we've become such good friends and you're,
And partners.
partners. And I've learned from you and continue to
learned
be
from you.
inspired by you. And you've been so supportive. I can't wait to see you in April again. We're at the Marriott headquarters, April 27th to the 28th. And if people are interested in coming, which you can we're going to be live streaming, but they can also watch.
It's so much better in person.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're looking for sponsors for the event.
Yeah, we're looking for sponsors for the event. So
what are the sponsor levels?
So they start at like 5,000 and go up to over 100. So you can get information.
I'll do 5,000.
Oh my goodness! Yay! We need
Josie heard that. So
Josie, we're sending you an invoice. And but if people are interested, you can go to shehasadeal.com and you can can subscribe so you'll find out, be in the know of everything that we're doing, from the investments we have to
I'm telling you,
programming.
That event is unbelievable. What you're doing with these women, it's unbelievable. I love that event. And everyone that, if you have time and you can go in April, you should go, because it's, as women supporting other women, supporting you with what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's just, and I loved diversifying my portfolio with you in hospitality. I love it.
No, that's great. And it warms my heart that you are so supportive in telling other people, because this is a movement, right? This is not just, oh, we're having a pitch competition. No, this is a movement. You should have seen Beth at Alice. It's a big hotel investment conference this year. I mean, there were so many more women from the first time I went there. And then I was on the main stage, and when they introduced me, like I had the whole squad. I mean, I didn't do it on purpose, but because so many women now have come through the program, and my team was there, alumni, current, of the current cohort were there. It's just like, she has a deal. Everybody's like clapping.
Well, we're not going to end on a downer, but I do want to say the following. When economies struggle, I've been doing this 36 years.
Yeah.
When economies struggle and industries are impacted, like the commercial real estate industry, women disappear.
Oh.
And we're not going to let that happen.
No.
You're not going to let that happen, and I'm not going to let that happen. But that happens. Yeah. And what happened in 2008 in retail is we lost in our asset class, we literally lost a generation of people. So when COVID hit, so if you want to hire someone 10 to 15 years in the business, they don't exist. Okay. Because the economy tanked, and if you were young in the business, you got laid off and you didn't come into the business.
Yeah.
So what I did during COVID is I started something called the Freshman Forum, and anyone 5 years or less, I and a young man I brought in who was 30, because I said, I'm 60, you're 30. I need a younger person to relate to these young people. But we had something called the Freshman Forum that we talked to them every week and kept them engaged and helped them with jobs. And because, so I want you to be thinking, if the economy turns like everyone's predicting, women in leadership positions, unfortunately, are the low-hanging fruit for layoffs.
Yeah. Well, I hope that it doesn't get any worse than COVID, but we did experience that in the industry.
Right. And you saw it. Did you see that? How women?
We did see that. But I think that, and I kept doing this even when COVID hit, right? And I'm glad I did.
You did.
Because even now, where everyone's like, it's so hard because of interest rates but I think preparation, like we're planting seeds, and I think we're going to get some substantial deals done in 2023.
There's going to be deals. There's going to be deals. And I just came back, as you know, from this commercial real estate mastermind, talking about masterminds. Yeah. And the majority of the week, they talked about seller financing. So
yes. And that may be how it gets done. And I think the seeds that we've planted are really what's going to help. And so I'm not giving up. And I know it may be some slowdown, or how we get in is different. And that's why our mission is to create new pathways.
Right.
to hotel ownership and development. And so, yes, we're realistic. We know what's going on. And I mean, I took a hit in COVID. I took a huge hit in COVID, but I could give up now and walk away. But I'm like, no, I know that, that it's all about grit, right? It's about grit, and you have to be in it to win it. And a lot of people will say, oh, it's a bad time, you should sit on the sideline. And
No.
what I say is it's never been easy for me. So maybe what we do is we have to do things differently. I'm okay with that, but I'm not going to, because when I started in residential, people said, oh, it's not a good time. It's not a good time. Are you kidding me? Like, the stuff I'm selling now is worth 2 and 3 times more. So when is the good time if it's not a good time? So you just have to figure out when or how to do it versus not doing it, right? You can't wait for things to happen. You just have to figure out, how do you do it given what's going on? So we're talking about, how do we find the sellers that are willing to do seller financing, right? How do we hone in on them?
Absolutely. So we will spread that word. So for everyone that is here listening to the wonderful Tracy Prigmore, you can reach out to her. We put her email. Come to the event. Join us on February 21st to watch the program on the investing of the hotel in South Florida. And of course, March 8th is our event, our 3rd annual in Orlando this year on March 8th on Women's International Day. And we have 10 speakers that have not spoken before. So we invite you guys to come. Registration is on the website, and we'd love to see all of you. And Tracy, I love you.
Love you too. Thank you so much, Beth, for having me on the show.
I'll see you in April.
Yes, I'll probably see you sooner because I'll be down in South Florida, so I'll call you.
Well, you need to come to the event if you can, but I think you have a commitment.
March 8th, yeah.
I think you do. I think you told me that earlier. But if that falls through, come, because now all of these women that have just learned and heard about you that are coming to the event might want to invest. One of my networking breaks, I just learned this at this thing I was at. You can put little colored circles on your name tag if you are a GP and if you want to be an LP. And the networking group, there are people who are looking for investments and people who are looking for investors. And we're going to have a networking matchmaking session.
Oh, that'll be great. Yeah, that'll be great.
If you can come, you can find investors for Coral Springs and the winery.
I need to come, but it's like the 8th. I could probably come, but I'm like smashed in between 2 events.
I know.
Big events. So
I know.
Anyway, we'll see.
Let me know.
Okay. But my sister's in Orlando, so.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Everyone's loving you. We're getting all these. They love you. They love you. They love you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Go have dinner with Noah and hubby.
Yeah, I think they already ate without me, but okay. All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you later.